just have to do it on YouTube and share it out. What's up, guys? Jason Guyman here, and tonight we're going to talk with Michael Zuzak, who had started a landscape lighting business and has had his ups and downs in life. And we'll talk a little bit of everything here tonight. And tonight, that is my goal for that. And he doesn't just do Christmas lights. He did it for 1 or 2 years, but I don't know if he does it anymore. But now he does mostly landscape lighting. And so I'm going to bring him on. I do have you all on the pressure washing and Christmas light side, but again, that is what we're going to talk about. So this week we are still snowed in. We are got about 5 inches of snow. Yesterday we got about 2 inches of snow. I think Friday we're supposed to get more, and then next week we're going to have a heat wave. We're going from the 20s all the way up into the 50s. So we'll be in shorts and t-shirts here.
That's a heat wave for you? 20 degrees is a heat wave?
When it has been in the when it's been in the teens and in the 20s as highs, yes, that is a heat wave. So that is definitely a heat wave when it is that cold outside. I need to find something here before you start talking too much, because I'm thinking it's going to echo on me. Here we go. So that is what we're going to hit on tonight. But before we get started, my book of the week, as always, is going to be the book that I've been doing a book study is Think and Grow Rich, because it is a great book and it's about mindset and belief, and that's why I like that book so much. And so with that, Michael, tell me just a little bit about who are you, where are you from, and all of that good stuff.
Well, Michael, I'm from Tampa, Florida, and I do, outdoor lighting and, just like Jason has a Christmas lighting group, I have a landscape lighting group more so. So, I do everybody knows me specialty for core drilling. That's when you take the drills and you sink it into the flush of the concrete to run your lights, and grinding and doing all the manicure and extra stuff that most people are kind of nervous about doing. So I've always shared how to do that. That's kind of how people know me.
All right. So how did you get into the landscape lighting business?
Honestly, I was cutting grass and that really sucked. So wasn't paying much. And over here in Florida, it just wasn't paying much and wasn't doing too well. So I saw a guy on my Facebook feed from like 6 years ago who was doing. I saw this lighting; it looked awesome. So his name was Corey Glenn. I gave him a message. He shot me back, and he was like, a lot of people say they want to do this, but no one's really gone through with it. So off and on for a whole year, I helped him. Just watched how he sold it, watched how he core drilled, did a couple jobs with him, demos, and then I was like, I loved it. I was like, this is it. And then I just went from there, started lighting, and accident. you know, you know. Hold on, I can't hear you, Jason.
Mute myself.
Can you hear me?
How has the landscape lighting business changed your life? How has going from mowing grass to doing landscape lighting? And you've done some really cool landscape lighting jobs. I've seen them on the pictures. You got a lot of Instagram and different things. But how has it changed for you and your lifestyle?
I don't have to cut grass anymore. you know, so that's a great thing. Um, no, I don't have to cut grass no more. It's fun. It's rewarding. Not only the money's good, but it's just once you get the basics of it, it's pretty simple. And it's basically, you go out there and you actually can see a nice design and have fun doing it and get paid, and pretty good for it. So
What are
definitely.
some things that a lot of people like to think that landscape lighting is complicated, and put a lot of things into it. And I think it's just a matter of people, they're afraid of the electric or afraid of it's how many bulbs you can put on there, and people like to make this complicated. But in reality, how hard is landscape lighting?
It's
It's
not
not
hard.
hard.
It's really not hard. Now that everything is LED, I mean, it's really hard for you to mess up. Once you learn the basics, it's pretty much simple from there. I mean, it's really hard for you to mess up. If you learn the basics, it's very hard for you to mess up lighting in general, like how many lights and so to speak. The only thing that you could mess up is when you have to get really technical and start pulling out the grinder and cordial and stuff like that. But hooking up lights in the dirt, not difficult at all. I mean, you mess up, you just cut the wire, you cut the light, and you can pigtail it to something else. Like it's very simple. Some
Some
people
people
overthink
overthink.
it tremendous. Like I'm not trying to diss the guys. Don't get me wrong, but some people like to say and they try to bring out all these things about like the science of the eye and the whatever. Lighting is subjective. Put the lights under the oak tree, and if it looks good and the customer's good, it's good. You don't have to get too fundamental with it. People try to sell that science stuff, and I get it to an extent, but it tends to scare people away. And then honestly, you can't mess it up. You really can't mess it up.
I kind of like what you said there of when the customer likes it, why do we like to keep overcomplicating things? And it's no different than Christmas lights, right? People, or even cleaning, right? Some people are like, well, it's not perfectly clean. Well, my definition of clean and someone else's definition of clean are going to be two different things. Same way with lighting, right? And so it is, can you put too much light? Probably. Can you put not enough light? Probably. But it is all about the end. Now, I want to talk a little bit about something else, and I want to go a little bit on the personal side because you said it earlier, and I think we all have it. But sometimes people will use this as a way of not being able to start or grow a business. And having ADD, I have it. Well, my wife says I have it. I don't know if I have it or not. I have it. But how has that helped you, or how have you been able to use this for your business and growing your business?
Well, I was diagnosed as a little kid, just ADHD or whatever. But that's why I have to work outside. I cannot sit in a desk and go crazy. I can't sit in school. I can't. I have to be outside. Like, I even book work for work, business and stuff. I can't do it. I just can't. I don't have the patience. So being able to go outside and multitasking, yes, I might jump around and be like, all right, guys, I'm gonna start wiring here. And I'm like, you wire over here. I'll go over here and core drill. And I'll go start core drill and I'll jump to something else. It gets done, but it gets done in different sections throughout the day, but it gets done. It's like constantly moving. But I think it's kind of cool compared to other people I know. I think I've noticed that multitasking and taking on a lot of mental pressure, like it's not like some people freak out, and they're like, overstimulated or whatever. And I'm just like, look, man, chill out. Like we can do this at the same time. I can talk to you right now and be like, okay, we're gonna finish this install. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. So, I don't think it's really a crutch anymore, so to speak. I think it's a good way of being able to handle the outside and pressure, really.
Yep, I agree. Z is the best, great human, great knowledge, and always here to help. Gracias. Yep. He is
Oh,
in his group a lot. Daniel put, love this guy already. Simple game, complicated by idiots. This is so true. I was going to get into landscape lighting a couple years ago after first season and was put off by the complicators. And it's one of those things that I see a lot of times where people will complicate things to make it complicated. And this is one thing that I've always tried to do is break it down into keeping things simple. Daniel here that I just posted his comment, and if you all have got any questions about landscape lighting or business or anything you want to ask, just put them in the comments here and I'll put them up. But Daniel here, he has grown his business and he has ADD. And he has grown his business to over a seven figure in 3 years. And, you know, it's one of
That's
those things that, is there anything special with Dan? Well, he is Scottish, you know, and some people would say, well, my accent will hurt me from growing my business. And that's an excuse, right? We can all come up with the excuses in our head to not be able to sell jobs. And it's one of those things that as we look at and as we keep growing our business, it is important that we make sure that we are doing the things that we need to do to be able to grow this business. You know, Daniel, one of the things he's been able to do really well is he got off the truck really fast, because he did the truck the first year, but year 2 and 3 he got off the truck, and so that's how he's been able to get to his business in that short period of time. And so it's just neat to see that, hey, you can, most entrepreneurs at the end of the day probably have ADD anyway, because that's what we think outside of the box a little bit. We're not like
Mhm.
perfectly. Now there is some people that it is has to be, you know, one thing or the other. And you know,
Mhm.
I know some people in landscape lighting, right, they'll be like, well, you could have used this fixture, you could have used that fixture, or you could have did this, or you could have did that. And it's like the customer was happy, they paid, and I'm happy at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
And so it is definitely one of those things that, yes, we can definitely overcomplicate this thing. You know, there's some things that people get scared of because they make it sound complicated. You know, I've always said if I started another business, it would probably be something with landscape lighting or permanent lighting or something along those
Mhm.
lines, because that's what I enjoy and it's a lot of fun. And so, and you get to be creative with it. You know, you
Mhm.
get to light things up. You know, and as people would say, you know, one of the biggest things that I teach in my classes too, if you come to one of my classes, is that, you know, it's not always about the lights that we're selling. And it's the same thing with landscape lighting, right? We're not selling landscape lighting, we're selling different things. We're selling security, we're selling different things that is going to light this house up and make it look amazing. And so these are the things that I see where people really like to overcomplicate it and make things a lot harder than they need to be at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So my next question, or and this is my thought, and I've been to a couple of classes with Michael, and we've got to eat dinner and stuff, and it's one of those things that how basically landscape lighting has, you know, saved your life and helped you be able to grow a business and be able to get you into things that you probably never thought. So how has your group, and I know you post some in there, but when you started the group, what was your thoughts behind starting that group?
So I started that group because I was in other groups, and I was, blocked and stuff like that because I was sharing too much, and it was kind of like learned real quick about there's politics in everything, every business, everything, whatever, and everything was fine and dandy until I started my own product line. When I started my own product line, everything changed as far as what was what, and then so, because I would show my installs, but I would show the installs of my product line, and then a lot of people were started, the admins and people were complaining, coming up with like crazy complaints about he's not wearing steel toe boots and he doesn't have gloves on and he's not in a bubble suit or whatever the complaint was. So they blocked me and I said, you know what, I'm gonna start my own group. And I started my own group, and then a lot of people just flocked to it because everybody would just share and share. And I was, I keep it as try to keep as clean as possible. I also was a little more hot headed for a little bit for the first couple years because I was beefing with a lot of the guys on there because I just believe that I was the type of person that if because it's my reputation as well. But if you speak on something about me or whatever, then I would just call you out and kind of vent to the whole group and so to speak. But I've kicked back way far back from that. I've chilled a lot. But
but
that like I said, that was just like I said, I didn't realize how much, in these groups, and certain people are the buddy buddy systems, and like I said, the politics involved, and it's like relationships people already have, and it's just it got kind of crazy. So
Yeah, I understand that completely. And, a lot of people, you know, it's one of those things that, people don't like you sharing. In fact, when I first started my business of Christmas lights, I had a person that, "Yeah, I can't believe you're sharing all that information." And it's just like, what is, YouTube is YouTube, and
Yeah.
I can share whatever I want,
Yeah.
and I've grown my business off of helping people. And how do I help people? By giving good advice, and I'm not going to give you bad advice. Is there
yeah,
plenty of bad advice out there? Sure, there is, but I mean, I've heard a lot of bad advice, but my thing is how can I help you grow your business? How can I help you figure out what you need to do? And, business is not hard. It's just the consistency things that make business what works. And so it is important that we understand that as we grow a business, it's one of those things of what are we doing to be able to grow this business? And so
yeah,
that's the exciting part of what we're dealing with of how we can grow a business. And so when you share that, people are like, oh my gosh, I'm selling it for 10 grand. It's like, well, good for you.
yeah,
I guess I'm going to tell all your secrets for 10 grand. And,
Yeah.
and so, but it is what it is at the end of the day. Daniel put the gatekeepers don't like it when you open the gate, and they know they don't, for sure.
yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on how in the future will landscape lighting be? Is it going to keep growing? Do you think it's at its peak? Is it watered down? I know that what I've always heard is, the landscapers get in it and then they like to do stuff cheap. But on the same hand, what are your thoughts on what the future looks like for landscape lighting?
I think the future is exactly where it went. It blew up 5 years ago. I mean, there wasn't many. There was some people out there doing what I do, and people can blame me, but oh, you train. I like, listen, man. Either I'm gonna do it or somebody else is gonna do it. Just like you, my purpose was just to help. It changed my life, so I was like, why not share it? And I didn't care who had said what about it. But regardless, the industry blew up. Still gonna blow up, but I think it's no different than irrigation. I think that people they're still getting jobs. I'm still getting jobs for irrigation. There's tons of irrigation guys. I would say that most of the golden nuggets are the guys that align themselves with builders and stuff like that. As an industry, irrigation, whether it be lighting, landscaping, getting in with a builder, you're locked in on you're pretty much locked in. But for the most part, everybody's doing it, to so to speak, but not everybody's doing like the core drilling and stuff like that. So the basic stuff, a lot of guys are doing it, like landscapers and stuff. A lot of them are doing like the basic stuff. So and it's easier for them. They'll get mad because they charge cheaper, but they'll just wrap it in with a landscape project, and they're still making money. So it's not, so to speak, the cheap guys is they have a bigger project where they just add it in for whatever it is.
Yeah, it's
But
just an add-on service versus a
yeah,
actual lighting service. And so,
exactly.
what are some ways that you do marketing for the landscape lighting?
So I'm big in neighborhood groups, Facebook neighborhood groups, as far as organically. So I join those groups, networking. I've like a lot of these neighborhood groups have like networking events I go to and actually hang out with these people, watch sports, and you kind of find out they're actually pretty cool. You might see that person, but like, he looks stuck up. And they might look at him like he looks like a criminal. But then you hang out, have a beer, and actually talk and conversate, and you find out that both of you are very, very cool or have a good past or history together, and you just build those relationships just like anything. And like they say, man, business is all about relationships. So you do that, these guys recommend you, do good work, and it goes a long way. And these admins, you might do work for the admins of those groups. The admin will post you, everybody trusts you. So organically, I would say Facebook groups is my thing as far as is that.
and that works for any business, right? If
Yeah.
you get into those businesses and you post in those groups and you don't go in there and just blast the groups, right? You talk about other things and you build
Mm-hmm.
relationships, and then like you said, if you can get in with the admins and then maybe cut them a deal and then they post it in there, and next thing you know, you're getting a bunch of jobs off of it. And yes, this works for Christmas lights, and yes, this works for pressure washing. And the mom groups are the best groups. If you want to know what the real money
Yeah.
groups are, is the mom
Yeah.
groups. If you can get in there, you're just going to have to identify as a female, I guess. But
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a little bit harder to do in some of those groups.
Right. Right.
But it is something that works really well. Is the mom groups, and that's in any of the businesses. And I
Mm-hmm.
know some people that have gotten, large jobs out of Christmas lights, out of pressure washing by, yes, you might,
Mm-hmm.
that's one time, I typically tell people not to do free jobs, whether it's pressure washing, Christmas lights, whatever. But that is one place that is one of the places that I'm like, I would do a free house wash. I'd do a free, Christmas light install, whatever that might be. That's one of
Mm-hmm.
the places I'll do it because that is a money group, is the mom groups. And I know lots of people that will back me up on this and have made lots of money off of the mom groups. The neighborhood groups work good too, but the mom groups are the big money key. So if you got a wife that can get in there or a girlfriend, that's a good way to get in there for sure. So um, I know that mom groups work great. They are awesome. Again, Facebook groups, and it's about being consistent, right? It's about showing up. It's not about,
Mm-hmm.
not showing up sometimes and only showing up other times. So it's important that we show up and we keep pushing it forward.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are your thoughts on what products should we buy? There's gazillion different products out there. There are some that are cheap. There's some that is $500 a fixture. What are your thoughts on what products, or what are some thoughts on that?
Um, to each their own. Yes, I have my own. Would I say my own? Of course, because I'm bound to say that. No, but so to speak, no. But honestly, there's jobs that I use like 4 or 5 different brands. So I've used it so much, I kind of comfortable with certain brands for certain parts of the job. Like either I use Docs, I use one brand because we have salt water. Well lights, I'll use one brand. Second story, I'll use a different brand. Whatever it is, and sometimes it comes down to budget as well. I mean, I try to tell the customers like I can sometimes there's guys that come in before me and they use these really expensive stuff, and I'm like they they'll tell me and they're like, well, this guy said to do this. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna lie, he's using a very expensive light. Now I could it's a good light. I won't diss the light, but I said I can do the same thing with this light, you know and that's up to you, how you feel. And I mean, I can use that same brand if you want, but I can do the same with this and help you out a little bit. And that's only just by reading the customer. I don't just go in there and say, hey, I'm going to use this, whatever light. Some customers want the premium. You just kind of feel it. You kind of feel it out as soon as you talk to them. And I try not to. I definitely learn not to oversell. Like I'll undersell like how many lights. I'll say, look, let's not put 20 lights out here like this. So we could put 10, and I can always add on. So there's no pressure to make you get 20. Would I love to sell you 20? Absolutely. But if you feel a little hesitant, we'll just start with 10, and if you want to call me back, we'll add for this much and this much. And that's always helped me because it's kind of been like they're like, oh, he's honest, like he's honest with me. He's not trying to just, because some guys out here would, like I said, they'll do oak tree and they'll put like, okay, you need like 10 lights around this oak tree. And I'm like, okay, yeah, oh, it looks good, but I'll be like, I'll use 5, 4, 3,
Now, on the oak trees,
and
are we pointing them up or pointing them down?
up, up or down, but most of the time it's up. And I mean, honestly, you just need 3, depending on how big it is. Do a little triangle or something. But each time you add a light, you change the shadows. You change. So I mean, it's all gonna look good. It just depends on the person's budget and what they want. So am I gonna say, okay, I'm not gonna start out by saying, hey man, like you could say, well, I'll give you 10 lights on this oak tree. You need that. nowadays there's so many of us. It's not like I feel like it's not like it used to be where there was, not so many of us and they just go with it. But everybody's getting more quotes now, especially since when things start slowing down for me in the seasons like January, February. People are not right after Christmas. They're not like so much of a rush to spend money. Like, call. Well, let me get one more lead. So just trying to be a little honest with them, instead of trying to knock them over the head off the first rip. I mean, the first conversation seems to help out a lot.
Well, and that's in any business of it slows down in January and February. It ain't
Yeah.
just landscape lighting, And yes,
Mhm.
you're in Florida, but pressure washing slows down in January, and
Yeah.
it's still warm down there, so it's not like that. I think it's like you said, people just aren't in the spending mood, but you'd think they are. You get all those northern folks down there that are coming and coming into their winter homes, so that would you think would be some of it, but it's just not. So we talked a little bit about the product. How do we price landscape lighting? Is it do we just pull stuff out of thin air, or what are some thoughts on pricing?
So
So
depending on
depending
your
on your
price, so
price,
this
so
is
this
the
is the
thing,
thing.
right? This is why I have an argument with one of the guys because like he says you should charge 300 and some plus, right? If you're using a premium fixture that costs you 100 and something, okay. I could charge 250 and not use a premium fixture, still have the same margin, right? But then they'll argue. I don't, it's just, it's like this. How I look at it, the way I price things, I learn to price things is not always just per fixture. I do my best not to sell per fixture. I just sell the design. I put it how many hours it's going to take me to do that, my materials, whatever, times 40, 50% or 40%, whatever. Find out the margin. But it just depends where you live. Everything matters where you live. Like I've been in Miami where these guys are making a killing per light. For them, yeah, 700 a light. You could say price per light if you want. And they're like, yeah, add 15. Okay, well, 700 a light. In LA, 700 a light. 650 a light. Tampa, like I said, our millionaires drive Jeep Cherokees. They're not that flamboyant. There's a younger crowd coming a little bit, but they're not that flamboyant. You know what I mean? So it depends on where you're at. I just say just find out where you live, kind of get a feel for it. But at the same time, there's if you should know your numbers. Even if you add all the materials and you divide that up, you kind of basically find out what you're pricing per light. You know what I mean? So, pricing per light can be good. Is good, I think, when you're doing a small install, because because you can get it done in a couple hours. If you're doing like 100 light install, I think that's bad because you don't know you're running wire. You might use 10 spools. You don't know, and you're gonna actually lose money. So it depends on the job size. You have to know your numbers as far as per light. So I would say on a cookie cutter home, you could get away with 250 a light. If you're gonna go large properties, it just depends on what light you want to use, man. It's like you want to decorate the yard with Cadillacs, or you want to decorate it with brand new Hyundais that look good too. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
I don't
know.
know.
You
You
know,
know,
just
So
it
depends.
depends.
what
Both
about
Both
gonna
gonna
get you
get you
there.
there.
they're both going to get you there, just one's going to look better than the other one. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
what about LED? Is LED a big thing in landscape lighting, or is it
Yes.
coming, or is
No,
that
No,
kind
everything.
of
everything is LED.
not LED?
So,
Sorry, I didn't mean LED. RGB, color lights.
oh, yes, it's a big thing. It's gotten a little complicated with certain brands and how they because do things, but RGB is I like if I can try to use a drop in, we call RGBW is a drop in color changer you can Bluetooth from your phone. For now, for me, that's just because I'm not a good salesman or it's just my area, but the most easiest sell for me then changing a whole color changing system because those fixtures are very expensive. Very so, you have to charge a lot, and it depends where you're at. So I said my area in Tampa, everybody is subdivision, subdivision, subdivision. Nobody has like big properties where you can do 50, 60 lights or 100 lights. Everything is 10 lights or whatever. So they're all good. I mean, there's FX, there's Haven, there's WAC, there's Corona. There's Alliance. There's a whole bunch of different stuff out there. The drop-in stuff is more cost effective and more easily maintenance. Meaning, drop-in is you put a bulb in as opposed to the fixture coming, which is integrated together. So when you do a warranty, you can change out the bulb instead of the whole fixture and have to send the fixture back and get one. And so maintenance wise, it's easier. But
With that, how often do these lights go bad, or how often do you have problems and stuff like that?
I don't know, man. It's just a hit and miss, honestly. I mean, they all have their failures here and there. And I don't know. Some guys I watch on the forums have more failures than others. Some don't. I just there's for me there's unless I'm the owner, I can't even come up with a number. You know, it's just RGB is, some guys are like, I'm done with RGB till it gets better. I'm just gonna do white for now because it's complicated. So I don't know. I guess it depends on everybody's patience level, the relationship they have with the manufacturer, and as far as their selling point. But it's fun. Color changing
Um,
is fun.
Yep, and that's the reason why I was asking is because I know right. It's kind of like the whole thing of permanent lighting. Some people want the color, some people don't. Some people Christmas lights 80% want warm white, and so it's like, what do you do at that point of what people want? About what Kelvin do you like to install for the permanent or for the landscape lighting?
I like 3000K. So warm white is 27 is a little yellow, like me. That's Spain. But anyways, 2700 is a little yellow. 3000 is a little mixture of white and warm white. So to me, it's like the perfect blend.
It's not
In
too
short.
bright, but it's just right.
Yeah.
Um, David Hamill put, "What do you find?" We kind of talked on this earlier, but what do you find that are the three best ways to market landscape lighting? Need to get my head wrapped around making the phone ring.
Marketing.
What are what are the three ways of getting the phone to ring?
Oh, we're okay. So if you don't do demos, I started out with demos, content. I think as far as Facebook wise, because I'm big on social media. So to get the phone ring, or also networking groups, BNIs, you can go in there and stuff like that, and they recommend you. Just networking is huge with other contractors. Having content on, so you have something for people to see, or the contractors to share or whatnot, and then you can also post those on the neighborhood groups or Facebook groups or whatever you want. So, and I always say, like, there's sometimes I'm not doing anything. I just tell my friends, I go in my backyard, put a light in the ground, take a picture, and be like, install for the day, and you just look busy. You know what I mean? But for me, I'm just talking about in general. And for me now, granted, again, I'm not one of these guys that are like doing huge numbers and stuff, but I do a lot of other things. But I'm just saying, to get the phone ring is content. I think the more pictures you have, the more pictures of you doing intricate stuff. To like when you do the core drilling, like I was grinding this whole line down the side of this person's house. Everybody freaked out. And it's just stucco, guys. Like, I'm like, you could be stucco this. Like, it's nothing crazy. But doing stuff like that and but keep the video, patch it up real nice, repaint it. And then you're gonna say, "Damn, there's a wire in there. I didn't even know that looks clean." Stuff like that. So when you do sell to a customer and you do have videos of how you did it, they're like, "Oh, he's done this before. Oh, let me they check everything out." I upload everything to my all social media and Google pages, website, Google, Facebook, you name it. It goes through everything. And so you just got to keep pushing that. And is networking again is big, so the phone should ring.
And
So
it's kind of back to marketing is marketing, right? You get your Google
yeah,
Business
exactly.
Club, put your pictures in there, make sure you're doing your posts, make sure you're doing all that in the Google. So that way, if they do look up the Google, your website, if you have a website, then that way you can post the pictures on there and recent projects and the projects that you do and where you do them at. And that way, that's going to drive more to your Google business profile. It's and honestly, it's marketing is marketing, and so that would be my thing. Even in landscape lighting, I feel like it's a business that you just gotta get your name out there. At the end of the day, rather we are, it's SEO. I don't know about
Yeah.
much ads wise of if people are searching for landscape lighting. I'm assuming they are. You could probably run ads, and that would be my thing on it. Is it's kind of back to, and then like you say, I feel like networking is huge. Whether we're talking about landscape lighting, Christmas lights, any of it, I feel like networking is becoming more and more of a big thing for businesses to be able to grow and keep your stuff going there.
Yeah. I don't think you can do enough marketing. So I mean, if you can do it all, if you could put flyers out, door hangers, yard signs, network, Google, like do it all.
Yeah,
Do it all.
actually, there's a guy local here that he uses quite a few yard signs, and I've seen his stuff in yard signs out of different places, pretty much at their job and then on the way to the job. We go to church out in the middle of nowhere, and I've seen his signs peppered all the way out through there, and it's just like, but there's a lot of big, nice homes out there. Is there crappy
Yeah.
homes out there too? Yes, but there is also some really nice homes out there too. So that is definitely something. We have 2 home shows, garden shows coming up that we have booths in. Yeah. This is a good question here of, are you using AI to help with your designs, or how do you do you do a design, or are you just kind of plotting it down? What does your design look like and bidding process look like?
So as far as design wise, I've gotten to a point where I just have enough work on my Google or my Facebook pictures for them to just kind of trust what I'm gonna say. So when I go there, like granted, there's there's been more intricate houses. I used they have renderings and stuff that are cool. I've gotten away with just kind of using Google Slides and just drawing, like uploading the picture of their house and using arrows and kind of just explaining, okay, this is where a spotlight goes in a certain color. It was just easier for me like that. Renderings are, you can pay for renderings and stuff now. That's pretty cool and helpful. But as far as AI, no, I haven't got into that. I have a friend that just started an AI rendering thing, and he's got it pretty dialed in, but that you still got to ask it a couple more times to kind of get it right. So it's kind of up to you on your patience level or whatever you feel is necessary. The AI will draw up. His name is Wes. I don't know if he's on here, but we'll kind of draw up the drawing by itself. But then again, you're sometimes it misses things like path lights and stuff. So it's just got to be tweaked in a little more.
Well, this is a question he asked. What state does he live in? He lives in Florida, but this is a question that I want to ask, is because it kind of does with state. Do you need a license to install landscape lighting?
Not in Florida. In Florida, you don't need a landscape low voltage license because once you plug the transformer into the outlet, you can play with everything after the transformer. So as far as anywhere else, I don't know, but Florida they don't require it.
Okay, because I was going to say I know mostly, and talk a little bit about that. What do you mean by low voltage? Just so people understand that we're not talking about 120 laying on the ground. What do you mean by low voltage?
So the transformer is a transformer. You plug it in, so it goes from 120 from the outlet to 12 to 15 volt, even 18, whatever, well, 18 volt. Basically, low voltage is low enough that you can put it on your tongue and not freak out, whatever. You get a little vibrant, but it's not going to hurt you. It's not going to electrocute you.
Is that been the
So,
problem with you, Zuzek? You've been touching it on your tongue too much.
yeah, probably. Nah, but my workers freak out sometimes. They're like, oh, and I'm like, get out of here, man. It's just get out. Like, I call them crybabies. Like it really doesn't hurt that bad. It's just a little baby zap. Or they see a little spark because it will spark a little bit, but it's not. It doesn't. It's nothing. It's 12 volt.
So it's very low voltage, that what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yes.
Is there systems that are like 24 volt, or what's the advantage of if you do go to that? Other than you can probably put more lights farther down line, right?
No, I think 24 volt. I think might be more. It could be wrong. Like the RGBW stuff. I think they're no, they're still low voltage too. So I would say 24 I've used for maybe some, I don't know, maybe some, I don't know. I've used it somewhere, but not, I'm trying to think. Everything is Chinese, right? So I don't know if it was for DC. I used it for a different transformer. It was like the 24 DC. Had its own like power pack. It wasn't like a transformer. It like came with like a power pack, so to speak. And I believe that was 24.
I got you.
And good.
Um, so he put, I'm in California, and just like anything else, you need a low voltage contractor's license, or you need a low voltage license. You need a license to do just about anything in Cali. Yeah,
Yeah.
you do, and pay lots of taxes for it. Too many. Sean put too many 9-volt batteries. So I'm just trying to think. I want this podcast to be a little. I mean, at this point, I've kind of hit on pricing. We hit on how to get jobs. We hit on what the different lights are. Actually, what are some different lights that you can do? We talked about a little bit about tree lights and up lights and down lights. What are some things that are good that you're actually looking at to try to make things symmetrical? So if you put something on the right side of the house, you're putting it on the left. So what are some other types of lights that you could also use for this application?
As far as a manufacturer,
Not as a manufacturer, of like, how do you design houses, basically, back to
oh,
the design.
so it depends. And again, everything is subjective, right? So like, I mean, you could, depending on your style and what you like, there was a time I could drive through Tampa and I could tell who did the lighting jobs. It was cool. You know, there's guys that will put, okay, like say you have a window. Like some guys usually put a light on each side of the window. And depending on how wide the space is gap between the end of the wall and the window would determine the beam spread, right? You want a wider one. If you use a 12 degree, it's going to go straight up like a candle. If you use a 25, it's a little wider, 45, a little wider, so to speak. Me, I kind of like putting it under the frame of the window seal. So I'll use like a 60 degree. And what that does is it highlights the window seal. And to me, that's just my own preference though. So, so you kind of highlight the frames of the house, so to speak, as opposed to just the sides of the window. So, I mean, again, now that's also shorting yourself on selling an extra light. So that just depends on how you want to pitch it and sub. You could start out by saying, hey, because the design is still going to look good either way. So you can say one on each side of the window, and then let's say they have 4 windows, make it small, and they're like, oh, that's too expensive. Well, all right, we'll do one. How about one in the middle of the windows, and that's 2. That cuts 2 out. So design is all about cost, and also, um, you know, uh, it's it's the same thing. It's just your own subjectiveness, So I've seen people light things really crazy that I would never do, and they're selling more than me. So I mean, hey, I don't know, whatever works. I mean, you'll once you start playing with it for a while, you get the hang of it. You'll go on the flow, and you'll get it, and you'll have your own little way of doing things.
So if you want to see any of his work, you can go to Michael Zuzak on Instagram. He's got a bunch of stuff on there.
All right, I
I
changed it.
changed it.
I changed it because I made a more professional page. That's just strictly work. Cause I was doing a lot of goofy stuff, like not a goofy stuff, but my private life mixed with my work life, and I just gave up on it. So I was like, you know what? Let me. My friend was like, you need to make a professional page because you got too much crap on here. So
Is it just
and
Zuzak then?
it's
It's
Zuzak
Zuzak
Outdoor
Outdoor.
Lighting and Design.
Go look at that. It's his Facebook group or his Facebook page that you can see, or Instagram. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Zuzak Instagram is Zuzak Outdoor Lighting and Design Tampa, and then Facebook is just Zuzak LLC.
So
And
that's where
that's
you can. He's got quite a bit of his stuff in there, and they got a lot of pools down there. So they do pool cages and all kinds of stuff. We don't have pool cages here, so we don't know anything about those up here. But that's kind of how this is. Do you have a maintenance program, and what does that look like if you do?
So I don't. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of guys do, but you understand, I'm not just a lighting company. So I do landscaping, irrigation, drainage, and I try to do that kind of stuff, polishing fixtures, and like I get to a point where like sometimes I'm doing a landscape job, sometimes I'm running behind. And then like, I gotta go an hour over here, polish this guy's lights, like whatever. So I got to the point where I'm just like, look, I kind of pick and choose my battles. Could I hire a guy to go around and polish stuff? I try to do that, and a guy might half-ass it. No one wants to sit there and polish lights and 96-degree weather and humidity. So I just kind of say, just call me when you need me if you have an issue, or they might hire somebody else. But that's just because, again, I'm not just strictly a lighting company. I'm sure that I'm leaving money on the table of repetitive income, but I just got too much on my hands, and it's just that's the only issue.
It's called that ADD kicking in that he tries to
Yeah,
do a
yeah,
little bit of everything.
yeah,
Nothing
yeah.
good.
Yeah, it is. Sitting there like, forget it. I can't. You can handle a lot of pressure, but I can't handle the pressure sitting there for half an hour polishing a brass cap. I can't mentally handle that. I can't. You know, I can't do it.
The ADD only lasts for about 2 minutes, and then he's on to the next one.
Yeah. I still left the cream on the top of the brass top and everything. I'm just like lotion, whatever it's called. I'm like, okay, on to the next. Good enough. So yeah,
Yeah,
I don't have the patience for it, and nobody I know does either. So it's like whatever.
I mean, there's definitely money to be made in it. That's the thing that
For sure.
that you can do. So really like your dock lights, as Sean put on there. So
Thank you.
so
Dock lights are fun.
so as we wrap up here, if you was a new guy, so if you didn't know, Zuzak and myself are actually having an in-person training here in Cincinnati. We are going to be teaching landscape lighting. We'll have a whole day of marketing and sales, and we're going to have a day of permanent lights. And we actually have another guy. I have another guy coming in that's going to talk about leadership and how to hire people. Mr. Sean Day said he will come in for a day or two, and he's got the hiring guy. And the last time he was here, a lot of people really liked the part on the leadership side of it. So if you wanted to come in, I'm like, come on, and that's fine. And so that is going to happen in February here in Cincinnati. It's not actually in Cincinnati. It's in Northern Kentucky. It's about 15 minutes from the CVG airport, the Cincinnati airport. The Cincinnati airport's actually in Kentucky. And the hotel is about 15 minutes away from my shop. But if you get here the first day, we can probably get you back and forth, so you won't need to rent a car. If you don't want to, we'll find you a ride back and forth if we need to the hotels that we recommend. It was going to be a good day. We're gonna teach you how to do the landscape lighting. We're going to show you the fixtures. We're going to show you how to do core drilling. We're going to show you how to do everything along the lines of that. And so that is what we're going to do. Sunday usually doesn't go as long, so if you need to get out of here Sunday night, you can fly back out Sunday night. Sunday usually only goes to about 2 or 3, where the other stuff will go a little bit longer for it. So that's going to happen February the 20th through the 22nd, I believe, are the dates. It's that Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So if you want to sign up, definitely check it out and let us, and it'll be exciting to see you here. What is the average GM a landscape lighting installation? 40% gross margin. What do you shoot for?
So I shoot for 50, 40. I'll say is my minimum, and I've always told people this: like, if they want to beat me up a little more, I tell them cash. I try not to walk away with nothing. I know what I'm paying for the lights, and what I know. Again, determining it's pretty simple. I gather a couple hours. Why not? I take it. Some other guys would tell you to walk away from it. I'm not rich enough to walk away from money at this point, so I take what I can get. But I shoot for 50, 40 be my minimum, and after that, if they beat me up anymore, I might look. I just take cash.
And there's a lot of money to be made in landscape lighting. I've got a guy in my Christmas light class or membership that he did between Christmas lights and landscape lighting. He did over $400,000, and so he did over $300,000 just in landscaping lighting alone in year two. So there's definitely money to be made, and he's not in like some great area. He's down in Arkansas, I believe it's Arkansas, and so it's definitely some money to be made that you can go out there. He's still on the truck, so it ain't even like that. It's just him and one other guy. So there's definitely money to be made in the landscape lighting business. So don't think that it's one of those things that there ain't no money to be made. So definitely, it'd be exciting to see you all here. It's going to be a good time. I heard somebody else might be showing up. The networking is always the best. Even the last few classes I've had with Zuzak, the networking, going out to dinner, eating dinner with everybody, and hanging out and learning. And the last time we were in Houston, we were hanging out and eating and drinking and all kinds of good times of having a good time of just networking, and so it's neat to see that. So I think I'm going to get into it. Daniel put on there. He's getting ready to leave for Scotland the next day after that, or 2 days after that. So, so no excuses. Where are you getting your manufacturing for your lighting product done? Oh, I don't know about that one. It's out of
Everybody knows China. I don't know.
yeah.
But I developed a relationship with them. Some of them have followed me for a while in this group, and I was doing my own thing. And everybody was like, how'd you get these? So I used to have these ideas. Like I did the MR11 drop in the pool cage light initially, a long time ago. And I went to an American manufacturer. And he was like, "Oh, Mike, it's gonna cost you $250,000 for mold. You don't want to do that, and this and that." I didn't know anything. So I was like, "Man, he has millions. So I'm believing him." Now I started talking to the Chinese rep started reaching out to me, and I was like, "You know, I have this idea." And I started talking to them. Then I actually went over there, hung out with them, and it got to a point where they were like, "You know what? Like, it's okay. We'll make it for you." I'm like, what? Like, make it for me? And you drew up a little contract and stuff like that. And they just, I guess they see me active on the group. They see me pushing stuff and hustling stuff. So they willing to do a little extra than ordinary, so to speak. So, I think. I mean, I did try to get it. Don't get me wrong. My first well light was made here in the U.S., and I was selling that for a while, but then they, bumped up prices on me. And it's just like, how do you compete with, China and stuff? The price is 3 times as much, and it kind of kicked me out of the game as far as selling that light. Nobody cared to use it. They could find something easier. So, I think it also happens as this industry has exploded, you have to compete. And I hate to say this, it doesn't necessarily mean a race to the bottom, because there are a lot of good products that come out. Everything's pretty much made over there, So it's all about quality control, finding a good product. But that's why a lot of these manufacturers have already kind of gone through that system of problems, and fixed everything. So it's just kind of just same thing in any business: trial and error, relationship you have with a manufacturer, whoever. And if you have these ideas and how to get them pushed, I don't know. I couldn't tell you if I could do it again. I just went with it, and I just made myself go over there and build a relationship. Again, just building relationships.
Relationships are definitely key in business,
Yeah,
and it can get you a lot. It's not always what you know, but who you know is the key in business. At the end of the day,
Hey, and don't be afraid, and don't get me wrong, not all relationships are great relationships, but you live and you learn from them, and you move on, and you find out you might meet a group of people, and you might meet 4 fake ones, and you meet one real one. So it's always worth it. It's always worth to have the relationships and build a good circle.
and everything happens for a reason, and you learn and you grow from it. So that's how you do that. So before we jump off here, what is some words of advice that you would give people that were thinking about starting a landscape lighting business?
Just do it. There's no advice. Just do it. Like really, like you're not nothing. There's nothing to worry about. It's very basic, very simple. It's good profits. It's very rewarding. Um, don't overthink it. And again, like I have friends and anybody on here. Once we get to know each other or whatever, just like I'm sure you do, if you run into a problem on a job site, just video call me. If you have a question, just text me, and I'm always open to helping regardless. I don't say, hey, send me $5. I'm about to give you some information. It's fine. Just my goal is to just pass it along. Pass was passed on to me, and I pass that on. If I somehow imagine I've made money by going to job like into LA and Georgia and doing jobs, helping guys on the job, on site and stuff like that. But everybody's winning, everybody's happy. So you know, I would say do it. And if you run into anything that's scary, you can always give me a call, or plenty of people in the group that they can.
Yep, good information. All righty. Well, that's all I have for tonight. I don't see any other questions on here. But other than that, I hope to see you all. ChristmasLights.io/IPT will get you there. In-person training. Just pick the date for February. That's the landscape lighting and permanent light class that is coming up. But other than that, I don't have anything else. And go have an amazing week this week. Next week's supposed to be in the 40s and 50s. So it's warming up.
Your
around
heat
here.
wave.
Our heat wave here and is doubling our temperature. So other than that, we'll see you all later. But hang on, Zuzak.
All right.